Newjeans fans will try to convince you that there are only two sides to the story: Newjeans and Minheejin's side versus Hybe's side. I, however, disagree. There are three sides: Newjeans and Minheejin's side, Hybe's side, and ILLIT and Lesser Efim's side. ILLIT and Lesser Efim are the actual innocent victims in this case, and that is not an opinion, it is a fact. Before I continue, let me give a disclaimer. If you're a Newjeans fan and you don't want to hear anything bad about the girls, then this video isn't for you. It's better if you just leave than camp in my comments arguing with other people. However, if you're someone who is open to a little bit of criticism, then you're welcome to stay. I am so tired of seeing Toki's clip together videos of idols struggling to keep up with the demands of the industry and caption it with, "Newjeans was right." What exactly was Newjeans right about? The way Tokis act about Newjeans, you would think that they were these revolutionaries who never stop talking about all the sufferings an idol goes through. Especially with the way they talk about Hanni. Like this girl was called to speak as a witness at the National Assembly, something that is a very rare opportunity for idols to have, but she decided to waste it on something that was so minor. For those who don't get why that opportunity was so important, cases that get discussed at the National Assembly get to be audited for an investigation. Hanni was called there as a reference witness of idol mistreatment. People had expected her to not just speak for herself, but for others who didn't get the same opportunity, because that's what revolutionaries do. During that same period, so many other idols were going through cases of mistreatment, like Omega X, for example. They had just exposed their CEO for documented instances, physical and sexual abuse. And then there was veteran idol Lee Seung-gi, who revealed that his company never paid him a dime for the 20 years he's made money for them. They didn't get a chance to speak up at the National Assembly, so everyone was hoping that Hanni would somehow represent them and other idols who faced similar problems or much worse. She could have talked about slave contracts, dietary restrictions, unpaid salaries, and more. But what did Hanni decide to talk about? An awkward hallway meeting. I'm not saying that Hanni should have explicitly brought up all these cases, but she could have at least used their stories as motivators to talk about how some of her peers aren't getting properly paid by their respective companies, or even how other idols from lesser known companies face physical abuse from company staff members. If she has said any of these, then the National Assembly would have been heavily pressured by the media to conduct a thorough audit on idol contracts and the power companies have over idols. But instead, she only focused on her own issues, which, let's be honest, did not hold much legal severity. In case you still don't understand the level of seriousness of issues that get brought up in the National Assembly, let's talk about this guy that Hanni was seen taking a selfie with. This man wasn't just there to be a spectator. He had been summoned to answer for the death of 5 workers who died due to his negligence. So to imagine that a place where discussions about life and death take place is the same place where Hanni thought it would be brilliant to voice out how she thought she heard a manager tell another group to ignore her is honestly so insane and tone deaf. To be fair, Hanni did talk about other issues. But if I also talk about them, then I just end up making her look much worse than she already does. But what the hell, I'll do it anyway. First, she also complained about how Bang Pidi didn't acknowledge her after she bowed to him on the hallway. For someone who's been raised in Australia, she sure places a heavy emphasis on bowing and greetings. Another thing she brought up was that Hybe dared to correct a journalist who wanted to put out false information about Newjeans' album sales in Japan. I'm still confused as to why they framed this as mistreatment. The journalist was trying to present the sale numbers as higher than the actual value. If Hybe didn't immediately contact them and correct the data, then it would only reflect badly on Newjeans' reputation and credibility. Hybe practically saved them from Sajegi accusations. And then we have the last reason, which this one I can see why it made them upset, but then again, I still feel like they made it way big of an issue than it needed to be. She found Hybe employees on an anonymous employee platform talking trash about Newjeans. Before anyone asks, this doesn't pose as verbal abuse unless those messages were directly sent to the members or weaponized against them. Otherwise, it's just office gossip. The employees were displaying their own opinions about Newjeans, and whether they're positive or negative, they are allowed to do that. From the employees' perspective, Newjeans are, in a way, their bosses. They are the faces of the company, earning up to $1 million in a single year. If you've worked a normal job, you know it's pretty common to talk trash about your bosses or upper management behind their backs. Again, this doesn't mean that I'm saying that Newjeans members weren't valid for feeling betrayed by those comments. I'm saying that this is something you take to HR and not the National Assembly. Plus, you can't expect everyone to like you, especially not the people you work with or people that work for you. Again, unless the employees were taking it as far as sending those messages directly, then it's not as serious as they made it out to be. The National Assembly meeting really put into perspective how naive those girls were. And the thing about being naive is that you end up hurting more people while thinking you're doing the right thing. Newjeans did end up hurting Les Seraphim, and especially ILLIT, because of their naivety. There's so many instances where Newjeans could have handled things without involving them. I get that their problem was with Hybe, but the way they handled things made it seem like they also wanted to take down Les Seraphim and ILLIT, especially with the ignore me case. In her text messages with Min Hee-jin, Hani is obviously not sure about what happened that day. She's not sure if she heard the manager tell ILLIT to ignore her, yet she still went ahead and told everyone online that ILLIT was told to ignore her. Hani essentially attached another group's name to a negative encounter that she wasn't even sure happened the way she thought it did. There's no way you could convince me that she couldn't have known how much it would ruin ILLIT's reputation. I get that she hadn't revealed the group's name at first, but she still went to the National Assembly to double down on those accusations, while being aware that everyone knew she was talking about ILLIT and their manager. Tokis always love to talk about the power dynamics between Hybe and Newjeans, but let's talk about the power dynamics between Newjeans and ILLIT. Even though Newjeans was in the second year of their career, they had amassed incredible levels of success that most considered them as competition for Blackpink. And then compare that with ILLIT, who had just debuted at the time. Newjeans already had an established fan base, and most of the general public knew them and listened to their songs. ILLIT, on the other hand, didn't even have an official fan base. Just weeks after debuting, they had a senior, more popular group accusing them of copying them and trying to replace them. And the worst thing is, it didn't even look like Newjeans were trying to not involve them. They only cared about telling their side without thinking about who else they were hurting. The only time they even acknowledged the fact that what they were doing was harming other groups was a year later after everything had happened. It was only after they had lost the injunction, and everyone was criticizing them for dragging other groups' name into their mess. It felt like a last-minute attempt to save face. It's been 2 years since this whole circus show begun, and ILLIT is still getting hate from Tokis, to the point where Mocha has developed an anxiety disorder and has to be put on hiatus for the sake of her mental well-being. And as if to add salt to the injury, Tokis are using this as a gotcha moment, saying that this was what Newjeans was trying to warn us about. Newjeans is literally the reason why ILLIT receives so much hate. Not to mention the fact that no member of Newjeans has ever tried to come out and tell their fans to leave ILLIT alone. Because, let's be honest, Toki's whole identity nowadays isn't to support Newjeans, but to attack ILLIT. Newjeans are in a position where they can stop more than half of the hate ILLIT is getting. And if they aren't aware of that, then they are way more naive than I thought they were. So it's either that or they don't really care about anyone but themselves.